welcome to NAPOD, where we provide NA speaker meetings and workshops in a podcast. We are an ad-free podcast, and if you enjoy listening, please help us to be self-supporting by visiting napod.xyz, look for the donate link, and drop $1 or $2 in the virtual basket. If you're also in AA or have friends that are, please tell them about our other podcast, Sobercast. Sobercast features AA speakers and workshops in the same format as NAPOD. We upload a new speaker every day, and it's easy to subscribe by searching for Sobercast, that's 2 words, on any podcast player app, or go to Sobercast.com. Enjoy the podcast, and thanks for listening.
Thank you. The Convention Committee asks that you please respect the hotel and smoking-only smoking-designated areas. Please be respectful to our speakers while attending meetings and keep all cell phones off. Our first speaker, Ted, has come down to share his experience, strength, and hope from the downtown Philadelphia area on looking for love in all the wrong places. Please help me welcome Ted.
Good. I'm an addict. My name is Ted.
Hi, Ted.
Woo! I believe that I'm here by God's grace and mercy. Sponsorship in the 12 Steps of Narcotics Anonymous. I feel very blessed and fortunate to be sitting where I am today. And no matter what happened with the confusion with the speaker today, I know and I believe in all my heart that we are all right where we're supposed to be here Saturday afternoon at 3 o'clock. I truly believe that it was your prayers that got me into this process of recovery. It was nothing I did by myself. I have a Narcotics Anonymous sponsor who has a Narcotics Anonymous sponsor. They're men of God. I need that in my path to recovery to elaborate more on that about the love piece of this. What's it called? Loving you, losing yourself. What's the topic called?
Looking for love in all the wrong places.
Oh. Like that Johnny Lee song, looking for love in all the... Yeah. All right. I always thought that this topic was corny. You know what I mean? I've been coming... My clean date is April 18th, 1998. That was the day I walked through the rooms of Narcotics Anonymous, and I had 24 hours clean and free from all mind and mood-altering substances. The day before, I was in a hospital in Rockaway Beach, New York, and they had given me 5 milligrams of a drug replacement. And it was in an H&I setting where they sent me away with a prayer and a meeting list. And, I wasn't a first-time winner in Narcotics Anonymous. It took me about 10 years to make it to that point of complete surrender, April 18th, 1998. And it was a member who was making coffee in a group 10 minutes before the meeting. And what had happened was a week before that, I was left for dead in the Linden housing projects. I got my head stomped on as a result of finding ways and means to get more and playing games with the dope boys and the connection that I had. And, there's some people in this room that remember that day when I walked through the door. But this dude that was making coffee, he had enough work in this process and self-acceptance to stop what he was doing because he felt good enough about himself and he loved himself enough to be able to stop what he was doing and to approach me, that hopeless addict that came walking through those rooms scared and desperate. And he stopped and he gave me a hug and embraced me the way we embrace each other here in Narcotics Anonymous, like survivors of a near-fatal catastrophe, you know what I mean? And what he did for me was that love that he gave me at that moment gave me enough strength to go sit down in the front row of the meeting, and I had never looked back since. You know what I mean? Love. Talking about the love piece of this. If you're here and you're new and you're struggling and you don't know what this is all about, you're scared, hopeless, we're going to love you here, man. That's what we do. We get well enough in this process where we embrace the God of our understanding We become okay with ourselves. We become okay with the person that we look at in the mirror. And it gives us the ability to love you and give you the ability to love yourself. And I've learned here, coming around and thinking that I was in love and early recovery, having this girlfriend that was an escort, and I would drive her around to her different stops. And which reminds me, we're in Atlantic City, and if I told you I was with a girl named Amber last night in a hotel in the city, you know what I mean, acting out, would you listen to me? You know what I mean? Living dirty or whatever it's called, looking for love in all the wrong places. I didn't do that today, but through this process, I've learned that the love that I need in Narcotics Anonymous is from my sponsor, and it's from the people, man. It's from the men that are going to tell me what I need to know. It's the recovering addicts that are going to love me for real and save my life. You know what I mean? Not those exterior things, people, places, and things, and things that I would look outside of myself to find love. I realized in this process that love comes from within. And I learned that through a sponsor. And the first beginnings of that door opening for me is when I sat down with my sponsor and I didn't love myself. The concept of love was not something that was in my family growing up. I come from an abusive household. I watched my father get taken away when I was a young boy on a Sunday morning. He got arrested and locked up, taken away. They put the hardware on his wrists, and they took him away, and he was out of the picture. And shortly after that, I sought the streets for my love and my refuge. And the kids in the neighborhood where I grew up that were in the same position as me, and we all leaned on each other for love, but there was no love there. It was very fair weather and superficial. And I learned that soon later on that there was no love in the street. You know what I mean? Even though I thought we were tight, we were boys, and there was a bond. But the minute that something came down, there was no allegiance to anybody. But what had happened with me was when I sat down with my sponsor and we went over my 4th step and we did my 5th step, and he read about the abuse and he read about the neglect and the loneliness and all those things that I promised myself I would take to my grave, and all the different stops that I ended up with in active addiction. This guy said to me, you had a hard life. And I wasn't looking for a pat on the back or an attaboy or any kind of sympathy, but the acknowledgement and the empathy of my sponsor acknowledging, where I was, and what I talked about in my 4th step was the beginning of me to start the process of trusting in you and the love. You know what I mean? It's not so much in all the literature and the books. I believe that the process comes, for me, it came through the people, man, the fellowship, the men and the women that embraced me from day one and let me know that, we're going to love you and help you unconditionally. And I still have some of those people in my life. You know what I mean? I got clean in the greater New York region. Now I'm in the greater Philadelphia region. And the same process happened when I moved and started a process of a new home group in the downtown area of Philadelphia region. You know what I mean? I belong to the Start to Live group. We meet on Sunday night at 7 in South Philadelphia. And it's the best group of Narcotics Anonymous in the city of Philadelphia. And I mean that with all my heart and soul. And what happened when I went there, when I came walking up to that meeting the first time, the experienced men and women in that group, the addicts, approached me with a warm embrace and that unconditional love and let me know, we don't care where you're from, if you're out of the neighborhood, if you have time or no time, all we want to do is help you in your problem. And they made me feel warm enough to sit down in that group and to make the transition of a new home group. And I thank them for that with all my heart, because that's the kind of love that will save my life. You know what I mean? Narcotics Anonymous has saved my life. And I've learned that love, what is the definition of love? And I'm not going to go to the dictionary. The best way for me to explain, when I think about my dog, I have a little dog, and what had happened was I got divorced in 2010, And I said to my sponsor, she's gone. She took the kids with him. You know what I mean? I'm about to lose the house and all the things that I thought were important in my life. What do I do now? You know what I mean? And he told me to get a dog. You know what I mean? Really. Right. So I got this dog, and this first dog that I adopted from the shelter, this dog wanted to go back to wherever it had come from. Every time I dropped the leash or the dog got out the front door, man, this dog just ran, man. He was a runner. You know what I mean? And I remember being up in Massachusetts at an NA convention, and we brought the dog with us, and my buddy opened up the truck door, and the dog jumped out of the truck, and we were chasing this dog all around Boston, Massachusetts, cross highways, through parks. This little funky dog, I don't even know what it was. And we spent 5 hours chasing the dog all around. We finally got the dog. But a week later, the dog had ran away again, and it got hit by a truck on the highway over by where I live. And, I was sitting on the grass median of the highway, and I had the dog in my arms, and I'm crying, and my sponsor, I get on the horn with him, and I'm like, what do I do? The dog ran away. I can't take this. I want to die. And he said to me, well, go get another dog. You know what I mean? Michael, go get another dog, man. So the police had pulled up, and they thought I was some kind of mental patient, and I'm crying, and they didn't want to hear nothing about the dead dog. They just said, get that dog and get out of the highway before we lock you up. And so I got another dog. My kids picked it out, and we went down to somewhere in Virginia this time for this dog they had picked out. And I developed a relationship with this dog. And the love that dog has for me, what's up, buddy? Love you. I can't begin to explain the love. And what had happened was, the whole gist of that suggestion from my sponsor was, don't go out and look for love in the wrong places, Ted. Don't start making a mess in your life. And what I did was, I stayed out of relationships as suggested, and I let myself go through the grieving of that marriage, the end of that marriage, and I stuck with the dog. And the love that I have, the relationship I have with my dog Halo, is the purest form of love that I can explain, man. There are no expectations. There are no conditions. It's just pure love. You know what I mean? And don't get me wrong. I acted out left and right when I had my divorce. She was a girl that I met in Narcotics Anonymous. You want to talk about looking for love in all the wrong places. She had 30 days. I had 3 years. You know what I mean? And I thought that I was, being slick, because the members of the group in the area told me, leave that girl alone, let her recover. And, I'm going to let her recover. So on the sneak tip, you know what I mean? Away from the crowd, we were seeing each other, and what happened was, when I thought I was being slick and I was getting over, 6 months later, she said, I'm pregnant, I'm pregnant. And, the thing is that I didn't have those feelings for this girl, and she's a good girl. She's the mother of my sons, and she's a good mother. And what had happened was, after being with her for almost 10 years, couple of years prior, we were in San Antonio, Texas. We were at the World Convention, whatever it was. And we were getting all dressed up. There was 10 of us. We had a nice table for a banquet on the floor of the Alamo Dome. And, she looked gorgeous that night. She had the sequins dress on and these heels. And I thought she was most beautiful. She was the most beautiful girl, And what happened was we were walking there, and through that weekend, it was Saturday night, and we were there since Wednesday, talking about looking for love and acceptance in all the wrong places. I was mixing it up with an individual who was on the Riverwalk there. It's kind of like a canal that winds through the city of San Antonio, and like canals with the funky looking elf tip front, you know what I mean? The boat comes up in the front, and it looked like Venice kind of. I don't know if you've all ever been to San Antonio. And there was a dude selling T-shirts that were fake Narcotics Anonymous World Convention T-shirts. And, every time I walked by this guy, I was, this was 6 years ago, mind you now. I was like, you're stealing from us, man. You're an NA thief. The guy said, you better get to stepping, you keep it moving. And walked by him a few times, and my wife at the time would tell me, behave yourself, man. You're supposed to be at the World Convention. You're supposed to be an example. You know what I mean? Be the example. She would say, don't share one thing, because what I'm doing up here is I'm just talking. You know what I mean? It talks about in our literature that our message is meaningless unless we're truly living it. And my friends were getting a kick out of this jabberjawing that was going on with me and this hustler on the Riverwalk, you know what I mean? And a couple times I walked by him and I'd call him a crumb snatcher, and I would make comments at him to find the love and acceptance of my counterparts that were with me. And finally, Saturday night, like I was just sharing about, we were getting all dressed for the banquet. And it was time to go wait online to go to the banquet, and everybody was feeling good, and it was Saturday night at the World Convention, and we're clean, and we're living the dream, and everybody. It was a beautiful sunny night, and we're walking down the Riverwalk, and we're coming to the little bridge, the footbridge that crosses the canal, and there he is. Dude, with his duffel bag and his counterfeit Narcotics Anonymous World Convention 34 T-shirts, or 32, 3, whatever, whatever it was. And I was like, I said first, and she knew what was coming. She's like, just keep moving. And as we're approaching him, I was like, there he is, the NA thief. And, my boys, they were like, so what happened was we had gotten into a little verbal thing there, and again, he told me to get to stepping, and, I acted out, and I took him and threw him into the canal with his Narcotics Anonymous T-shirts. Yeah. So the T-shirts are all floating, like 100 T-shirts are floating around in the canal. The canal's all green and like murky. T-shirts are turning green. Dude's looking up, he's in the water and looking up at me like, you are effing dead, boy. You are, and like, we started to keep it moving, and people, I'm sure that the police department was called. And there was a crowd that witnessed the whole thing. And we walked. She broke her heel on her Vera Wang shoes that I had bought. But would have bought her anything, man. Still do. You know what I mean? 3 years into the divorce. But what had happened was, on my left were my so-called friends who I was seeking the love and acceptance from. Like, yeah, that was the most beautiful thing we ever seen, kid, it was great. And the look on her face with the broken heel was a little bit different, a little bit different. And when we had sat down at the table, at the banquet, and all the festivities started, and they started to do, what we do at the meeting, everybody in that room was probably having a great time. And she had this look of disappointment and disgust and hurt on her face. The same look that I had put my family through my whole life, you know what I mean? Doing dumb things like that. And there were many. And as the night went on, she turned over and she looked at me and she's like, I'm divorcing you. You know what I mean? I'm not doing this anymore with you. Your friends are more important. Your sponsees are more important. You know, you seem to be more important with the loving relationships with everyone else but me. And it's over. It's done. I am done. And that was the beginning of the divorce process. And it was in recovery, the worst night of my, one of the worst nights of my process here in recovery. You know what I mean? Talking about selling my soul to the cop man. Looking for love in all the wrong places. This girl tells the story. The first time that she saw me at a meeting, she knew she was going to marry me. She loved me with all her heart, and she did everything everything that could have been done as a wife. And I just didn't love her in that way. And today we parted our ways in good terms. We have a great relationship. We spend time together. And the blessing to that is that we have 2 sons. I was blessed with these 2 boys. You know, I don't think it was luck. I never thought I was going to have children. But these 2 sons, we raised them in a healthy atmosphere together. You know, it's a we thing. And and I made a serious amends with her about that incident on the San Antonio Riverwalk that night, 2007. You know what I mean? But that's what happens. The damage that my disease, even inadvertently looking for love in all the wrong places. You know what I mean? I had to do a little more step work, and I have more step work to do on that. I talked to my sponsor about that whole story, and I said, well, how do I go and make amends to that dude? You know what I mean? And he's like, every time you go to a convention, buy somebody a T-shirt. You know what I mean? Keep doing that until I tell you to stop. You know what I mean? And that's the kind of love, you know, that's what I need to hear, because I did a lot of damage to my life in all different areas, financially, emotionally, spiritually, that night when I acted out, thinking that I was impressing my Narcotics Anonymous network friends. You know what I mean? And we thought it was all in fun, but I did a lot of damage. You know what I mean? And I'm recovering today. Like, I have to learn how to keep it moving, keep my hands to myself, keep my mouth shut, because my mouth is something that will get me into trouble every single time. And it's not dignified, you know what I mean? Love comes from within, and I've learned, and I love this piece of literature, a little passage. It talks about, in the 11th step of It Works How and Why, it talks about, we see that regardless of the presence or absence of material success in our lives, we can be content. We can be happy and fulfilled with or without money, with or without a partner, with or without the approval of others. We've begun to see that God's will for us. This is Narcotics Anonymous defining God's will for us. We see it all throughout our literature. Seek out what God's will for us is. Find God's will. Align my will with God's will. We have something here. Looks like a definition from us, by us. It says, we've begun to see that God's will for us is the ability to live with dignity, to love ourselves and others, to laugh, and to find great joy and beauty in the surroundings around us. Our most heartfelt longings and dreams for our lives are coming true. These priceless gifts are no longer beyond our reach. They are, in fact, the very essence of God's will for us. You know what I mean? Talking about dignity, man. You know what I mean? Let's talk about depth in this process. Depth. You know what I mean? How deep our message is. And dignity. It's not dignified for me with 14 years and 10 months and some days to go try to get over on a newcomer with 30 days anymore. You know what I mean? Somebody that's been killing themselves. You know? Talking about going to Atlantic City and hooking up with some prostitute, you know? Because I'm not hurting anybody, right? I'm paying her, we're doing our thing, and we're keeping it moving, we're parting. There's nobody getting hurt in that process, but there is. It's not dignified, man. I've learned that from sponsorship and the steps and you people, talking about the dignity that we embrace here as addicts in recovery, you know what I mean? We become the most dignified people on this planet, you know? It's not dignified for me to steal, you know? I remember being with my sponsor at the time, and we were in a store, and the guy overchanged him by like a dime. And he went back, and he's like, you know, you gave me too much. You gave me 10 cents too much. And I was like, are you serious? You know what I mean? Like, are you trying to impress me? And he explained to me, he said, Teddy, if I'm willing to take 10 cents, I'm willing to take it all, man. Anything. You know what I mean? And it starts with the little things. I don't steal no more. I remember when I was a teenager, I used to smoke these things called woolies. We used to lace weed in this blunt paper. We used to lace them with crack and angel dust, and like, you know, and we take, you know what I'm saying? And what had happened was, we were smoking that garbage and driving around in East New York, Brooklyn, in a stolen car. This car would go, woo, 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 and we would steal cars from the local guy's gas station. And I was driving his car, and we were smoking woolies for like 3 days. And I was already on a person in need of supervision, probation as a juvenile with the courts and school. So I was like just about on a string to get locked up, talking about looking for love with my peers. So what had happened was they had come behind me and put the lights on. The light rack went on. It was New York City Police Department. And I was on Cross Bay Boulevard. I was high as a kite. I was paranoid and schizophrenic. You know, we had drugs in the ride, and all my boys, you know, there were 4 of us in the car, and they, you know, we were all high, and everybody had problems with the law. So when those lights had turned on, I was so high that I had thought a spaceship had landed behind me. So I went into psychosis and I was hallucinating. True story, man. And I had hit the gas on the car, and I ended up going 2 blocks and crashing through the vestibule at the Burger King, Cross Bay and 154th Avenue. And I went through the vestibule, and somebody was seriously injured in that accident. Seriously injured. And I got into serious trouble there. And my mother, this little Italian lady who was there for me unconditionally, she poured out her whole life savings to get me bond and get me a lawyer. And what had happened was there was nothing that she could do for me to get me out of trouble, and they had sent me away, 15 years old. They had sent me away. They had sent me 200 miles away, and looking for love in all the wrong places, you know what I mean? That wasn't the right place in that car, you know. My mother had never done anything wrong to me where I shunned her love away. But she would get a girl that never drove out of the neighborhood. She was a neighborhood girl. You know, she was born and raised up there in Brooklyn. And she would take her car. She ended up getting licensed and take her car up Interstate 87 to where I was, you know, almost 180 miles up. And she drove 30 miles per hour on a 65 mile per hour speed road to see me every week. And she was the only one that went up there to see me, talking about the love piece. I love my mother so much today. It's been the most beautiful almost 15 years that I've had with my mother, where I got a chance to make serious amends with her. You know what I mean? Where we've had a chance to have a serious relationship. I don't have to go looking for love in other places when I have that love right at home. You know what I mean? My mom was there for me unconditionally, the way my dog, the unconditional love, my children, the unconditional love. You know what I mean? I would tell her, do not come up here, Mom. Don't come up here. She came up in the spring, in the winter, summertime. She drove her car all the way up there every single week. Every single week. You know what I mean? Putting her own self at risk, her own safety at risk. You know what I mean? To be a mom to me. And what I had done was shunned her love away and sought love in the streets, in all the wrong places. You know what I mean? If you're in a Narcotics Anonymous convention, you're in the right place. It says in our literature, this is a place where you could find a sponsor. You can find the love. You can find people. You know what I mean? If you're in a home group and they're hugging you at that door when you're coming in the door, you're in the right place. You know what I mean? If you're in relationships and they ain't telling you that they love you when you have conversations with these people in your life, you're in the wrong place, man. You know what I mean? It's very important to tell each other, express how much we love to each other. It takes a process. It took me a long, long time, and it says in our literature that self-acceptance takes a long time on a deep level. It took me a long time to be able to tell you that I loved you and meant it. And I won't tell somebody that I love them today if I don't mean it. You know what I mean? I just won't. For the most part, 99.9% of the people in Narcotics Anonymous I love. Because if you're in these rooms and you went through what I had to go through to get here, if you're somebody that struggled with the disease of addiction, man, then I love you because it's unconditional, man. If we look up unconditional in our literature, that means no conditions, man. Not that you were from my neighborhood or you're the same color as me or religion or creed. Because that was a big thing where I grew up. You know what I mean? If you were a different color and you came across this side of the boulevard, you know, we were going to fight. And today, I have close relationships with the people. There are people in my life that are a different race, and the race that they are is a race that tried to stop my head in the stairwell of Building H in the Linden houses. They tried to kill me. You understand? And I have relationships with people of another color, people I love more than anything else, and I realize that, you know, we have no room in Narcotics Anonymous for bigots. There's no such thing as a recovering bigot. You know what I mean? Tony, God rest his soul, used to say that. You know what I mean? I look for my love here. I look for my love with my peers, the men in my life, my sponsor. These are the men that I get the love from. My home group members, you know what I mean? And I get that love. They help me when I walk through this process, you know what I mean? And there are times in this process where we go through things and, you know, we got to play hurt, you know? We got to play the game hurt. And the game is life. You know what I mean? I can't go medicate. I can't go try to change a feeling that I'm feeling. There are times in life where we have to walk through this process with uncomfort, discomfort, and not use. I have to walk through those feelings, and I have to lean on the men that have God in their life and that give me the strength to let me know that champions play hurt around here, man. My sponsor talks about it all the time. Sometimes I got to walk through this process and play hurt. You know what I'm saying? I went through a divorce. I went through illness. You know what I mean? Death. I buried my brother as a result of the disease of addiction. Relationships ending. You know what I mean? It goes on and on and on. And I didn't pick up. And it was the men in my life and the women in my home group and my sponsor where I leaned on and I let them know that I am in hurt. Ouch. Sponsor taught me one long time ago, say ouch. The same way when I slam my hand against something at work, I work with my hands, acknowledge that pain. Say ouch. You know what I mean? Real men around here cry. I acknowledge the pain when I have to, and I say, listen, man, I am in pain. I'm walking with this pain, and I seek the love and the acceptance from the people in Narcotics Anonymous to help me get to the other side. Because it's going to happen around here, I'll tell you that right now. For me, things still happen. The thoughts of using still come and go. They're never going away. But I come here and I get the love that I need. You know what I mean? And there is the love in this room tonight, whether you're sizing me up, judging me, whatever you're doing. I love myself enough today where I can handle it. You want to hate, you want to love, it's okay, man. I believe that the God of my understanding loves me unconditionally no matter what. Everything that happened to me up until this point in my life I'm grateful for. And God's grace and mercy, man, that's why I'm sitting at this table. It didn't have to be this way. So I hope you got something out of this piece. And if not, make another meeting. You know what I mean? Love in Narcotics Anonymous is bar none. You know what I mean? I've experienced that love. My home group members, Philadelphia, I love you guys. My sponsor, my sponsee brothers, I love you guys with all my heart. So I don't have to go to the host roll. All right? I don't have to go to the porno sites. You know what I mean? And I'm alone, but I'm not lonely. And I'll call my sponsor, I'll call my network, and I'll say, I'm alone, man. I feel less than. It's been 3 years, and I haven't had that. And I understand that I am right where I am supposed to be. And that's a tough one, that's a tough pill to swallow. But, it's better than selling myself out, selling my soul out, you know what I mean? And taking one step back to the cooker. So I do not want to go back there. You know what I mean? No matter what. Just for today, I'll renew my acceptance. I'll renew my surrender. I'll put it into action. And each day I have to do that. And when I get up in the morning, I have to ask God to give me the strength to do this, to be a part of and be in this process, because it's very easy to go in another direction for me. You know what I mean? It's very easy. Each day I renew it. I renew my acceptance. I want to do this. And that's it, man. My name's Ted. I'm an addict. Thanks for listening.
Okay, our second speaker, Nicole, has come all the way from Baltimore to share with us. Please help me welcome Nicole.
I don't know. We stand. I'm sorry. My name's Nicole. I'm an addict. Hi, Nicole. Thank you so much for sharing. I got a lot out of what you said. I should have went first. You took my opening number. I was going to sing the Johnny Lee song for you guys. Because that's all I kept thinking of when they told me this is the topic of this meeting. And looking for love in all the wrong places. I can feel that on so many levels throughout my life, on so many different things, from day one, really, for me. You know, I go back and I think about when I was a small child, and now I can reflect back on thinking about the feelings that I felt, and the uncomfortability, and the less than, and the not being a part of, and wanting to fit in, and wanting to be loved, and not feeling that, and seeking elsewhere. And that's what I did. And that's what I did for a long time. That's what I did before I picked up alcohol, drugs, anything else. What I did was I wanted my mother and my father to love me. To love me unconditionally, to show me love. However, I thought that love was from a small, young child. And, you know, I grew up in a household with a mother and a father and a sister, a younger sister, who was very different from me. I was that kid that was always happy, on the go, energetic, talked to people, wasn't shy, funny, whatever. And my sister was not. My sister was more kind of like my mom's demeanor. Sat in the back, hid, quiet. So from a young age, whatever my perception was of that, I felt different. I felt less. I felt like I should have been more like her, because my mom would understand me more, would love me more, accept me more, be on the same page with me more. And whether that was true or not, maybe she did understand her demeanor more. She did not love me any less, but I felt like that. I told myself that story began way before I picked up anything. That I was not lovable, and I needed to change or do something to become lovable. And that's what I can remember before I got into, you know, I got clean in 98 as well. That was a good year. And, you know, I didn't come in here, the first time I came in here wasn't 98. It was before that. And I was beat up. I started using very young, 10 years old, and took off. You know, and I found comfort and love and acceptance, so I thought, on the streets with my friends, same story, neighborhood kids, running around, and I thought that was acceptance and that was love. You had my back, I got your back. When shit hit the fan, nobody really I had my back. You know what I mean? And I learned that young, and like that programmed into me young, which was hard and still is hard today to break. Still is hard 14 years later to break that mentality some days. And for me, when I came here, I did not stay here. I was a scared, young, broken little girl, but you could not tell me that. I wanted to fight everybody off. I didn't want no parts. I did not want you to hug me and show me love. I really did inside. I didn't know how to accept that. That was really uncomfortable for somebody to come up and, women to come up and to say, like, in the back of my head, what do you want? Men, what do you want? What do you, and it was always trying to hold everybody here. And what happened was I used. And I kept picking up and I kept picking up and I used because I sat in the back and I wasn't open-minded. I didn't want that love and I didn't want that, as much as I think that I did want that, but that I really did, but I didn't accept that and I wasn't ready for that acceptance and I kept running and using. And I got here back in 98 and I started to open up just a little bit and allow a few women to talk to me. And my recovery took off from there, really. When I was out there on the streets, I ran with a partner. Our nickname was Bonnie and Clyde, so that can tell you a little bit of how we ran. Crazy, insane, doing all the same stuff for all the same reasons. And I was tired. I was not filling that void. I ran with this partner and we were supposed to have each other's backs and it was not filling that emptiness. The drugs were not filling that emptiness. I heard a meeting talking about fun in the early ages. Though that fun was so long ago, I don't even remember that shit. I do not remember that. It was so long ago. At the end, it was just manifest in, the pipe and the dope and all that. None of that was meeting. It wasn't doing anything. And when I came in here, I did not like anything about myself. I did not hold my head up. I did not smile. I did not accept anything about myself. I was ashamed. I was disgusted. I felt less than. I was beat up. I was, lie, cheat, and steal. Lie, cheat, and steal, survive. That's what I had in my head. And slowly, through the process of learning how to love myself, this has been a long process, and I still got a long ways to go. And that's the bottom line. I still have a long way to go. And I have, in 14 years, I have made some decisions and have felt pain from it. I have, felt the repercussions of the consequences and feeling life on life's terms. That's what you have to do. You can't run. I ran and filled and filled and filled, and it did not fix. So I got here, and when I had 6 months clean, I got pregnant. My Bonnie and my Clyde got clean, and, we were going to reminisce and have, no, wrong. And I wind up pregnant, and I don't understand, and I'm like, we all know, but I'm like, what? And like I said, I had 6 months clean, and my history had nothing. I knew nothing about nothing. I didn't know how to take care of myself. I didn't know how to love myself. I certainly didn't know what to do with a kid. I never even held a child in my life. So with 6 months clean, that was my first awareness of what are you going to do? And what I'm saying is I have a 13-year-old son today who I have raised on my own to be the man that he is becoming. And that has been some unconditional love that I have learned through all. And I've stayed clean since 7/11/98. And I had been on my knees in fetal position wanting to use between then and now quite a few times. I didn't come in here and get clean and be like, okay, I'm going to sit in the front row and come to meetings whenever I feel like it. I came in here and I came to meetings once or twice a day because I wanted to use so freaking bad. I did not want to feel the pain that I was feeling. And, you know, for me, feeling that love, I can try to fill that void with food. I can try to fill that void with friends, with not sitting still taking care of myself, with running so that my mind doesn't sit still. I could fill that void with men. I could fill that void with shopping. I could fill that void with money. I could fill it with work. I could fill all that. And honestly, if I don't learn how to love myself and take care of myself and sit still with myself, nothing else matters. Because I can only run for so long before it all catches up, and then what are you going to do? And I've been in that position where I have ran, and still in recovery thought I was invincible. And when it hits me smack in the face, what are you going to do? What are you going to do different? You know, you can't act the same way that you act in Nicole. It's not okay to put your hands on somebody in the middle of a convention with 5 years clean. I don't feel good about myself afterwards. I don't love myself and love that part of me that says go back to all that old street stuff and act that way. I don't love that. I'm not okay with that. And, you know, this has been a process for me, and feeling that, you know, that good enough, and feeling that I didn't come in here looking in the mirror, smiling at myself. Some days I still don't look in the mirror, and you know, and I get that I don't feel good about myself. And I need to realize and take a step back and reflect on everything that I've been through and where I've been. And, you know, so, you know, it's just like the first, second, and third step for me is looking in that well, seeing the same empty well over and over. Me and my sponsor were talking about this. The second step, a little birdie telling you there's fresh water around the corner, and you believing it. Trusting on the third step, believing that that water, as soon as you hit that corner, it's really going to be there, even though you can't even see it. And that's been something that I've had to 1, 2, and 3 constantly in 14 years, you know, remind myself. Faith, trust, get through it, feel it, and try not to feel it in some other area. And I fall short because I'm a human being. You know, and for me, a lot of feelings of, you know, the not good enough. I mean, there's days where I look and I love myself, and I loved what you said at the end about you can look at me and judge me and this and that, and I love myself enough to say, you know what, that's okay. Because I know who I am today. And I know what I've been through, and I know what I've done, and I know all my decisions have not been perfection, and I'm okay with that today. You know, and there was a time where I was not okay with that. I wanted you to like me. And I wanted you, you know, I wanted everybody to like me. I wanted to feel a part of and accepted, just like I wanted my mom to accept me and feel that from her. It always goes back to that for me. You know what I mean? Whether it's been relationships or it's like that family of origin for me, where I go back to that same little Nicole who just wants you to look at me and acknowledge me and tell me you're proud of me. You know, whether it's a relationship, you know, or my parents or a friendship or whatever. And really, none of that's going to fill it until I'm proud of myself and I feel good about myself and I love myself. You know, and most days I do, and some days I struggle. And that's the honest truth. You know, and feeling that, trusting around the corner. Like, through this process, I've been through relationships. I've been through friendships. I've been through pain of losing people that I love to this disease, family members. And, that pain of sitting through it, the life on life's term, and the pain that comes through that, and not wanting to feel it, and crawling out of your skin, and hating the way that you react to something, or hating the way you're feeling about something, and having to go back and tell on yourself, and having to call your sponsor or talk to your network and say, look, I feel crazy, is this normal? Or why doesn't he love me? Or why doesn't she love me? Or why, my son's 13 years old and he is going through that process of, I don't want, all right, Mom. And I'm like, I could be codependent in that area. I have no problem in it. It's been me and him all his life, and he's my buddy, and, to some degree, and that's like, all of a sudden he's a little man, and he has to separate. He has to. I know that. Legitimately, I know that, But that hurts, and I could be codependent on that love, like, oh, he don't want to watch a movie with me. He don't love me. I'm fun. I'm not cool now. I'm like, what? I'm cool. But that's okay. He loves me, and I know and I accept that everybody has to go through that, especially young men, I feel. And, because I see some things reflected in him that I did, or I was like I want to get scared right away. He's an addict. He's going to do all the same things I did. He's going to, and he's Ty, and I'm Nicole. And we have, I was programmed, and believe me, my parents were good people. My father provided. He was, the background was he was very unemotional. My mother, we didn't sit down, talk about feelings and all that stuff. But they did the best that they could with what they had, and I know that. And I know now in my heart they loved me, and they love me, I know me and my sister were different people, and that's okay. We're two good different people that they loved equally. And, just feeling now that acceptance, me and my mother, we didn't talk for quite a few years. And that was very, very painful. That was a big void and rejection that I felt in my life. And clean, I'm talking clean. And we were able, because of a power greater than myself, we got to this point where we could sit down and, talk about everything from childhood and make that amends and talk about everything, And I can't even tell you how much more that filled me, even though I had come to an acceptance of how I would feel this rejection and this void, and I would reach out and try to reach out to her, and she would shut the door and shut the door and shut the door, and it would go back to that little girl, you don't love me, why don't you love me, what can I do different, why can't I make this right? And, I came to this acceptance of she is mentally where she is, I can't change that, but we worked it out this year and we made amends, and that has been a blessing because of this program, because of staying clean, because of becoming a woman that can accept myself and love myself and look in the mirror and be okay with myself and, give it my all no matter what happens, vulnerability, rejection. That's what I got to do. Keep one foot in front of the other and keep on moving, and hold my head up high and walk around and smile, and because that's who I am today. I'm not that same nasty girl with that mean mug that doesn't want, we all want to be loved. That's the bottom line. We all come here broken. We all come here bruised. And we all want that love and acceptance, just like Ted was talking about, hugging at the front door and feeling that warmth. You know what I mean? We all have different processes, and I have learned that here as well. Not judging you because of what I think you should be, or where you should be, or you should be where I'm at, or it doesn't work that way. You got to go through your process to get where you need to go, just like I needed to go through my process and still do to get to where I'm going. And, relationships, being in relationships with friendships feeling the same way. It's like, I accept people for where they are and love them. I love them. And I could say that just like with the warmth in my heart, where I didn't care about nobody but myself when I was surviving. And I legitimately love and care and try to help people today because I want to. Not because I feel obligated, not because I need to, because I want to. In my heart, I want to. And I don't have time for everybody, and that's okay. It does not mean I love you less. And I'm okay with that too. And, these are all things that I've learned by staying here one day at a time and not picking up, no matter what pain I'm in, no matter what food wasn't filling that and making me feel better and loving me, no matter what gym wasn't working, no matter what relationship wasn't working, heartbreak, all that stuff. I stayed here and I stayed clean. Whether it was looking in the fridge wondering how ends are going to meet, I didn't give up. I didn't give up. I stayed for my son. I stayed for myself. And I began that process of loving myself and putting myself through, school and having a career and having 2 careers and making something of myself. And that showed me, what that did was that built goals for me, and that built up in me what I could do and who I was and what I enjoyed and the woman I wanted to be and who I was becoming. Because I didn't know any of that. I was so young when I got here. And I got pregnant, and it was foggy, and I didn't know nothing. And I've learned all that, Just like my process might be different than your process, and we learned it different, and that's okay. We're still good people growing and loving ourselves. Everybody in here deserves to be loved. That's it. Bottom line. Everyone. We all deserve it. I don't care what you've done, who you did it to, how you acted yesterday. Make up for it today. I need a t-shirt. Just so you know. I didn't get one yet. No, but I mean, everyone in here deserves. I'm sorry, I laughed at that story. That was funny. Probably because I can relate. Wanting to feel that acceptance with your peers and doing all that, and that's not love. Like you woke up the next day and how you went to bed that night and how you felt, when I did what I did and acted out the way I did and how I felt after I did it. It was not loving and caring about myself. It was disgust. It was disappointment. It was, look, you haven't grown one bit. 5 years clean, acting like a crazy animal again. What are you doing? You ain't doing nothing. All that disease voice started talking. You ain't nothing. You ain't never going to be nothing. You haven't grown. You wasting your time. Run away. You just get one. You know what I mean? Like all that stuff, all that little kid stuff you're not a part of. You're not accepted. You're not. All that stuff came up, and I needed to fight through it, swallow the humility, and say, you know what? I am good enough, and I love myself enough to stay here and do what I got to do, and face the game and face the shame and get through it and be okay with it. And one day at a time, I still do that. I do not wake up every day thinking I love my life. I wake up thinking my life is so much better than what it was before, and how I'm going to make this day play out. What am I going to teach my son? Am I going to teach him to be loving and caring and to give, or am I going to teach him to lie, cheat, and steal and go back to all that other stuff? And I don't want to teach him that. I don't want him to have to deprogram some things that I've had to deprogram, that I've, learned and watched and went through. And you gotta tell me one time. Relationships with companions and wanting to feel that acceptance and going crazy and making up stories. Who can relate? Making up stories in your head that never even happened. Never even happened. I mean, I can go from, my partner will be in the other room. I jump in the shower. In the shower, somehow, all this stuff happened. in the shower, there's like a story in my head, like, and I get out the shower and I'm pissed. What? Before I got in the shower, I loved this man. I get in the shower, I come out, and I'm ready to like knock his head. What? How could you? Nothing happened. Nothing happened but all this trash in my head talking. You know what I mean? Like all that stuff that doesn't exist. And you know what? If anything does happen, it's going to come out. And no matter what, I love me. I'm okay. You know, I mean, my disease can get me. I can go insecurity-wise. It can, and I don't care who you are. Male, female, big, little, tall, short. I don't care what color. I don't care what it is. We all have our stuff. We all are insecure. We all can play stories. We all can think that we're less than. We all can get that whole thing where we don't accept and this and that. And what are you doing? Oh, yeah, you got, you know, all that stuff and the insecurities. And, like, I need to shut my mouth and reflect and trust in that everything is going to work out the way it's supposed to. And that I love myself enough to know that everything I've been through has worked out, and no matter what the outcome is, I know everything's going to work out. You know, that I don't need to pick up something else to make me feel better, even though I've made up some crazy fake story, and I feel this certain kind of way, and it's not even real. And, you know, I don't need to do that. I don't need to do that today. Am I always perfect at it? Hell no. I still, you know, walk around with this mad face for no reason sometimes, and I just need to fight through it and not open my mouth. And sometimes I do open my mouth, and sometimes I'm real sorry when I do. You know, and, you know, trusting that, because let me tell you something. The love that I get from any man or any friendship or my son is not going to fill that love that I need within myself. And that's really the bottom line for me, and that I've learned here. I didn't know anything about loving myself, accepting myself. I didn't know anything about taking care of anybody else, selfless, any of that. I didn't understand why I felt the way I felt about myself. I did not. I just thought that drugs numbed me and made me feel part of, made me feel good, and I didn't care about nothing else but getting and wanting and more. You know, and I did whatever I needed to do to get it. And ran the streets and did whatever it was, you know, it took. And I didn't think, you know, I knew I had a problem. I knew that when I saw myself and hated what I was and what I became, you know, let me tell you something. This year, I felt that love from my mom. And she told me she was proud of me. And I have never heard that before from her. And that meant a lot. Even though it doesn't feel that, it helps to patch it up a little bit. You know what I mean? It helps to feel like, for once, she's in my corner. You know? And this whole time she was in my corner, we just didn't understand the perception of what we both felt and what we went through. And that she's a human being, too, who's gone through a lot of things. And that I could understand that she's a person who had been through some stuff. And to hear that my mother was proud and the words that I love you come out of her mouth about 6 or 7 times, that felt really, really nice. And that's all from staying here and being clean and working a program of accepting that she's where she is, and she's been through what she's been through, and that's why she behaves in the manner that she does sometimes. That makes sense. And I'm where I am, and I can accept that, and I know I'm not going to change her. I'm not going to change anybody. I can go crazy and love my son to death and try to fix it. No, it's going to be okay. He's going to do what he's going to do. If he's going to pick up, you know, and smoke and do all the shit that I did, he's going to do it. There's nothing I can do to stop that. And that sucks. And that powerlessness sucks. But I cannot be, I always think of that cartoon, I'm going to love you and squeeze you and hold you with that thing, that teddy bear or something, and smothering. And I'm like, I will not be that cartoon, not to any man, any child, because I love them, but I need to accept whatever decision they make as a human being, because they're going to have to do what they got to do to get to where they're going. And that doesn't define me. So, I don't know. Yeah. So, I don't know. The whole thing for me in this process, I'll wrap it up with this, is learning the acceptance of myself. Learning that I'm going to fall short, and that's okay. Learning that in this process, I didn't get it gracefully. I didn't get it on the first try. And tomorrow I might act out, and that's okay, because I need to keep it real for myself. If I stand up here and pretend that I don't feel a certain way sometimes, that's not real and that's not true. And that means I'm not true to me, and I'm living a lie. And I don't want to live a lie today, So with that, no matter what you feel, we need to learn to love ourselves and to love other people. I do strongly agree that we all need to help build each other up, because we all didn't feel that, I don't think. I didn't feel that. So, I hope somebody heard a little something they could relate to, and no matter what, you don't need to pick up. You don't. Thanks for letting me share.
Thank you for listening. I hope you enjoyed the podcast. Please help us improve our ranking so others can find us by putting a review on Stitcher, iTunes, or your favorite podcast index. Nawpod is ad-free thanks to the folks supporting the show with $1 more per month. If you enjoy listening, you can join them by going to nawpod.xyz and looking for the donate link. Thank you for listening. Have a great day.